All right, ladies, welcome to this episode of livyGirl Radio. I am so super pumped to be interviewing Shell Brodnax. She is an amazing lady who has accomplished so very much, and she is a mover and a shaker in real estate. But unlike so many people that we've interviewed thus far, she's not an agent. She's a stager and a stager extraordinaire, and she's the CEO and founder of RESA, the Real Estate Staging Association, whose mission is to support stagers and to set some standards, which is really cool, and we'll be talking about that. But Shell is a sought-after speaker, known for her passion, and I love this, her make it happen, don't wait for it happen, no nonsense approach to business. And ladies, you know that's what I'm all about. No BS, no fluff, just the good stuff, right? So Shell is a marketing strategist who knows how to build a thriving business and a thriving association. So she's going to talk about that. But I did want to tell you before I get into it, some of her many awards. She has earned the Staging and Design Network Home Staging Industry Leader of the Year. So congrats on that, Shell. Yeah. She is a Stevie Awards for Women in Business finalist a couple of years in a row. And she's the Central Valley Women's Council of Realtors Businesswoman of the Year. So without further ado, welcome, Shell.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Awesome, awesome. Well, listen, we talked briefly before we just hit the record button that I saw in your background. It's quite interesting, very intriguing. You got your private investigator license back in the mid-90s. So I'd love you to share with us what that was all about and how in the world you go from PI to staging.
Well, let me tell you, that was one of the best careers that I ever did. And I think that, you know, along my entire career path, I started working when I was 16. Every job I've had has gotten a skill set ingrained in me to be able to take to the next job and to the next one and the next one. And being a PI was no different. I was a PI for about 10 years. Absolutely loved it. It was so amazing. And I worked in the financial services side of the industry. So I investigated and found people who skipped out on their debt. And then I worked with attorneys to recover the debt. So rental car damages, just tip out there for anybody. If you rent a car, take the damage waiver. Take it. It's so worth it, because if somebody comes up to you at a stop sign and bashes your rental car in with a baseball bat, guess who gets to pay? You do, not them. Even if it's a criminal charge or anything, you're still responsible. So I collected on those, and I did some fraud, and it was just awesome. I just loved it. It was so much fun.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of, no 2 days the same probably, and meeting different people too. So how then do you go from that, really amazing job to another whole new industry in staging?
Well, the funny thing about it is that it lost a challenge. Back in the 90s, we didn't have Google and Facebook, and you actually had to have some serious skill set and talent in order to do these types of investigations. And literally, we used to buy CD-ROMs with information. So it's like as soon as they make it to the CD-ROM, it's obsolete. People, close, rentals down and phone numbers down in seconds. So just got to the point where it wasn't a challenge anymore. There wasn't anybody I couldn't find. There wasn't any bank account I couldn't find. There were no assets that I couldn't locate. And so the challenge just became less challenging over the years. So I decided to get out of that industry. And I had a mentor who was a realtor. And I'd known her since I was about 5 or 6 years old. And I was just turned 31 or 32, I think, early 30s. And said I needed something different. And she introduced me to somebody who was teaching people to become real estate stagers. So I worked with that company for about 6 years. I loved it. I helped grow it. I'm so proud of everything we did. And over the years, I just thought, we were only helping, you've got a big industry, remember to the big pie. We were only really servicing a little part of it. And so I saw all this need for the rest of the people out there. So put some feelers out. And in our industry, we didn't have the National Association of Realtors. We didn't have anybody that was servicing stagers' needs as far as a trade association was considered. So I did the research. I pulled the people. I pulled industry professionals in from all the training providers, the vendors, anybody that was working in the industry, and pitched the idea of a trade association and asked if this is something that the industry really wanted and they would support. So they all got together and said, yes, absolutely, and we think you should do it. And so that's kind of how it started. And we are a not-for-profit organization, so I don't own it. We have a board of directors. I can be fired at any time if I go cuckoo and rogue, and nobody likes what I'm doing, but we're 10 years now in, so it's been very successful, and we're super excited to be able to do this for our industry.
Okay, excellent. That was going to be my question. How long ago? So about 10 years then, right?
2007.
Okay, so for those, I mean, I can't imagine anybody that's listening that wouldn't understand what staging is, but let's start right there. What is staging, and why should real estate agents care?
They should care because they're taking somebody's money to sell their number one asset, their home. And that's really what staging is merchandising somebody's number one asset. When you go to the grocery store, there's products on every single shelf. Everyone has a different wrapper. It's merchandised. And if they were all the same, could you imagine what that would be like when you went to go shop? Or if you go into the Nordstrom's or the Macy's, if the clothes were ripped or little tears or stains on them, what do you also see? The big slash discount on the price tag. So imagine what that does to your home. This is somebody's number one asset. Most people, all of their money is tied up in that little nest egg we call equity. And we need to be able to get as much equity out of somebody's property as humanly possible when they're selling.
Mm-hmm. So what are the stats? Like why is this so important? Because I think a lot of times, and we're going to get to each of these issues, but I kind of want to put it out there now. I think a lot of times agents say, my client doesn't understand as much as I try to tell them that it's going to sell quicker and it's going to sell for more money. But how do we help the agent to become better educated to sell how important staging is ultimately to put more money in their client's pocket?
Awesome question. And here's the thing. An agent, let me use an analogy. A stager often gets homeowners that don't have an agent yet. So when a stager has that, if they went to their agent and said, just give me all your information and I'll pitch my client for you. That doesn't work, right? It doesn't work because that stager can't possibly sell the agent. The only one that can sell the agent is the agent. So really the only one that can sell that staging service is the actual stager. So when you work with a stager, that stager will work with you to give you the proper language that you need in order to break the ice and to be able to talk about it. And the bottom line is this: 10 years ago, a lot of people would say, we don't want to hurt our clients' feelings by broaching the subject of staging. Pshaw is what I say. This can be done very, very easily because you can just use a lot of great analogies to get people to understand. And one of the biggest things that you can do as an agent is to be able to show your clients online. When you're looking for a home and you're swiping on those listing sites, you yourself, what are you more attracted to? When you see an empty, vacant home or an occupied home that's got lots of clutter the way that we live, it's just not as appealing. When you look at something that's nice and clean and crisp and pristine, this is merchandising. This is the same thing when you walk into a grocery store. You can see two cans of something right next to each other, and one has some really great marketing and one maybe not so much. But these days, even we've noticed over the years, marketing has changed even for products. So do you remember back in the 80s, the black and yellow generic paper towels, beer, mayonnaise, soda, whatever it was all generic? Well, when you go into a store right now, even the generics look like they're more of a brand name. And so even those types of marketers have understood that merchandising a product works. And that's just the bottom line. So you can use a lot of analogies with your clients, whatever it is that you find that they may be into. Somebody could love sports cars, and you could use the analogy of, okay, here you have two choices. You can have this beautiful shiny red Corvette with no damage on it whatsoever, or you can have this other red Corvette. It's a little dirty, sure, it can use a bath, and then it can use, a wax job and some buffing, and there's some damage on the tail lights, and you just need to repair that, and this tire is kind of flat, so it needs all this extra work to it. Which do you want? And it really kind of boils down to that.
Okay. And then I'm going to play devil's advocate with that. Okay. So the devil's advocate to that is, well, that's fine. I'd have to spend money on the one that has a little bit of damage. And am I going to see the return on my investment of time and money to make it kind of match the one that's pristine? I mean, I'm for staging, don't get me wrong. And
Are you talking about from the buyer's perspective or from the seller?
Yeah, from the home seller's perspective, when, for example, the realtor even broaches the subject of staging. This is very important. I know for me,
Yeah.
was my own stager because I love decorating and I have that skill. I was blessed to have that skill. But for those that don't or don't want to learn, they really do. They're leaving dollars on the table for their seller clients. There's no doubt about that. And so I understand, I totally get your point about the stager has to be in front of your client to best sell their skills.
Right.
But I think the realtor often is the first one there, so they need to kind of set the stage. So for the seller, that's just like, oh my goodness, no, I don't want to get into that. That means you want me to spend more dollars and all I want to do is sell. So I guess that was kind of where I was going. If you have.
Absolutely. And it also, you can use it within those situations as well. So here's what the bottom line comes down to. The homeowner always has the choice of what it is that they can and cannot do. So I'll give you an example. Right now, I really want to move. I've owned a horse for about 5 years and I board him someplace else. I'd like him to live with me. I need a ranch home with property. So I've been working on my home for about a year. And my husband constantly is saying, why are you spending another penny? We're selling this house. Why are you painting that bathroom? We're selling this house. Why, yesterday, did you just put new floors in both of our bathrooms? We're selling the house. Why? Because I don't want any buyer objections, because the floors that were in our bathrooms were 30 years old. They were icky and dingy and they just don't clean up well. So if you can clean it up and you can make something look new again, that's great. But if it's damaged or there's any way that somebody's going to look at this and say, this just is not correct, you just should not be selling something this way, you fix it. So what you're doing is you're eliminating all of these buyer objections. Ultimately, sometimes a house just wants to be sold and somebody does not care if it takes them longer. They don't care if they have to come down in price, and they just don't care. They just don't want to do something. That's not the client that should be staging. I definitely don't recommend that you want to stage anything that's a flipper is going to buy an investment property. Those properties definitely don't want staged. But if a homeowner, a seller, wants to sell quickly with less hassle and possibly for more money, staging is the answer.
Excellent, excellent. So what you said earlier on is intriguing for me about bringing in the stager. So in your experience, how does that work? I mean, we initially meet with a seller and give our listing presentation, and hopefully we walk with the contract that night. But when does the stager come in the process, and how is that whole thing handled from what you teach your clients?
So the stager would come in. If the agent comes in and they're interviewing for the listing, they definitely want to broach the subject of staging, especially if it's something that's needed. And a lot of agents will pay for a consult. So a lot of them will say, I work with a stager, I'm going to bring them in. And my advice to that agent would be to say, I work with a stager, we have a proven track record saying that you do have one. And when they stage my listings, these are the results that I get. When my sellers do not want their listings staged, this is the result that we get. The proof is in the pudding. So you just need to kind of approach it that way, get that stager in at least for the consult, and the stager can come in. And then if it's an occupied home, a lot of times the homeowners just want to do the work themselves. Like what I'm doing right now, I will actually call in a stager to stage my home when I'm ready. But a lot of this stuff I can do myself. So the same thing with any seller. There's a lot of things you can do on your own to improve it. And that can be tackled through a very inexpensive consultation, less than $500, $200 to $500, depending on where you are in the country. And you can get that consult. And then the homeowners can do the DIY approach. And if it's a completely vacant, the stager can come in. And again, that's when it's merchandising a product. So again, use the analogies and use photos. An agent should be taking their iPad and saying, this is your competition in your neighborhood in this price point. These are these homes. This is what you're up against. So when you look at this home, and it's online and it's beautiful and it's gorgeous, and you look at yours and it's empty, it's still beautiful and gorgeous, it's a nice home, but visually, people are looking at this and they're visually processing this, and people are always more attracted to the home that looks amazing.
That's super. Yeah, I mean, that's powerful stuff to bring pictures, or even better, online, like you said with the iPad, because when I was in production, I would actually say, in the home's current state, I'd say you're probably going to get in this range. But if you do this, that, and the other, and depending on how involved, then the range goes up. And so you can see that even if you spend $1,000, I'm saying it could potentially be worth like as much as $5,000 more, because as you said, number one, people see something that may be small, but they don't know what it costs. So then they like 10x it just to make sure they're covered.
Yeah.
And also without these stories of here's what happened, and you have pictures, as you said, here's what happened when I put this home on the market and I had my clients spend $5,000 and we got $15,000 more than they thought they would. That's powerful stuff, stories. So we always teach them, you know, teach our clients, tell stories. That's what sells, you know, because nobody wants to spend money when they're looking to leave. So what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. Stories, success stories, analogies, anything that you can use as an agent to be able to get the point across is priceless to people. And I'm going, like I said, I'm going through this process right now, and I have so much more information by going. I mean, I've bought and sold a few times, but this time, I mean, I'm really looking at things. I really am looking for something specific, and I'm looking online. I'm looking at some of these pictures, and they're just not doing some of these properties justice at all. At all. So it's really important. Professional photography, that's the other key to this. If you stage it, you must use professional photography. It doesn't be no good whatsoever to take photos with a phone. A camera phone is, much of these photos are being posted online with camera phones, and it's not the best representation. A lot of people, you know, you sell your car on Craigslist, people will go out and get it detailed and, you know, even pay somebody $100 or whatever to get their car detailed before they put it on Craigslist. And that's not their number one asset. So putting a few $1,000s into a home potentially in order to sell it quickly and potentially make a lot more money, or at least even sell at list price, because most people, you know, they kind of know they may have to come down on a price in order to sell it. And a lot of times when you stage it, you just have multiple offers, especially in a really hot market. You're going to get so many offers that you won't have to come down on your price.
That's great. And I think the one thing that I don't think anybody can argue with is, do you love going into model homes? Aren't they just all, regardless of if the style is yours or if it isn't it just beautiful and you can see yourself living there?
Right.
That's what a stager does. They set it up so that the most person that can't visualize anything can see themselves living there, and that translates into dollars. I love it. I love it. Let's switch gears just a little bit, Shell, and tell me about your thoughts on networking between stagers and agents, and maybe even your thoughts. Where do you think a real estate agent should be to really grow their network, their tribe?
Great question. I am a huge fan of networking and getting involved. So through RESA, we have chapters throughout the US and Canada. A chapter would kind of operate on the same way like a local women's council of realtors. I recommend getting involved. I recommend everybody supporting each other in the industry. Lenders, title reps, stagers, home inspectors, real estate agents. We're all in it together. And it's like, if we can all get on everybody's team, isn't that what you want? You want key qualified people on your team, no matter what business you're in. And this is definitely a business that networking will help that. So I'm a huge fan of Women's Council of Realtors. I've been a member since 2002, 2003. RESA was founded off of that business model. So it's something that works really well. It's working great in the regular real estate industry. It's working great in staging. And I just think that people should get involved. I think agents to get involved in leadership opportunities through your local association of realtors or through your women's council is priceless for your business.
Okay, excellent. What do you think about women beginning their own networking group? I mean, and that could be even informally. I know one woman up in New York, she has, oh, I forget what the heck she calls it. It's about wine. So she's like wine and, sorry, I can't remember what it is, but sometimes they're just informal get-togethers where maybe it's like, you know, 5 to 10 friends and you say, bring a friend and meet at my house. Other business owners, you know, because women, I don't know many women who aren't in business for themselves, whether it's full-time or a side gig. So I don't know. I love that idea of even branching out on your own with your own network that you begin. You've done that, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, once you do it, beware, because that one female entrepreneur that you know will start something like that and they turn it into a huge organization.
you, right?
Yeah. So it definitely works. You can do things on a small scale. I think a lot of times, I definitely have an appreciation for organization and for organized networking. There's a lot of problems, you know, a lot of people start out small and you just want to keep it small, everybody kind of getting together. That's not a problem. But when you start to have things like people might not get along or a situation happens, what do you do with that? Then you're kind of on your own. So that's where organizational documents help. So if you really want to get something going, you need a nonprofit status, perhaps a bylaws, you know, board of directors. I mean, there's lots of things that you can do to kind of grow it, but just getting people down informally, I love it. I think it's great. It's a great opportunity for people to share ideas, to even share education, because undoubtedly at any of these little events, you've got people that have so much knowledge. So just to be able to give somebody a little platform to teach something for 20 minutes that everybody can learn from, it's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I have one thing that I just thought of that I'd love to ask your top 3 staging tips. But before I do that, something else popped into my head as far as networking. So many of the ladies with whom I speak, they say, Judy, I'm an introvert. And so whether it's formal or informal, it scares the bejeebies out of me. And I'll admit, I mean, depending on where I'm going, I get the butterflies. I think that's healthy and natural. But do you have any tips for introverts and the whole networking thing?
I do. If it's crippling and it's a square peg in a round hole, find another way. And I'll tell you why, because it's aggravating. I had a business partner years ago. I told her my story of Women's Council and being the founder of RESA and networking and all the success that I have in doing it. And I've asked her, you know, did you ever go to WCR? Did you love it? She's like, oh, I went and, you know, it didn't work for me. I'm like, well, how many times did you go? And she's like, 2. Like, 2 times. And did you meet anybody? No. And it's like, did you talk to anybody? No. And it's like, okay, why not? Well, because I just don't do that. I just kind of sat around. Okay, well, if it's square peg, round hole, and you're going to go and you're just going to sit and you're not going to get involved, find another way, because it's literally, you're going to just be banging your head against a wall. But for those of you where it's not so terrifying, or maybe it's just a little bit and you can kind of get over it, go get involved. They're just people. That's what it boils down to. Everybody is just people. And from my experience, most people are very generous and very kind. It's very seldom that I hear of anybody going into a new environment through networking where they just get completely obliterated and slammed down and walk away feeling rejected. It's very, very rare. So in reality, everybody's pretty kind. So I would say go and try it.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, two tips that I have. One is pretend you're the host, because if you were the host, even if someone were there that you never met, you'd kind of stand tall and say, hi, my name is, you know, Judy Weber, and you are, you know. And the other thing is to ask about them. Who doesn't love to talk about themselves? Oh, tell me now, what do you do? And, you know, that kind of just lets the conversation feel natural, which I think initially just our minds are like, uh-oh, this is a sales thing. Sales is a dirty word. Right. And so this is just kind of dirty and yucky, you know?
Right. I always recommend when you go to networking, don't go to a networking event and start talking about yourself and selling yourself and shoving yourself down someone's throat. Wrong approach. Don't go. I hear so many people saying, oh, I'm going to pass out a whole box of business cards. And I'm like, why are you throwing stuff away, sweetheart? It's not going to work. Don't do it that way. And don't go and collect 50 business cards and then run home and put them into your sales funnel. And that's just not the way to do it. Have a presence. Be known for something. Go in with some great intent. And ask about, like you said, ask about somebody else. And if you hear somebody's looking for something, you could be at a luncheon or a breakfast and they could be talking about wanting a stair stepper. I'd be going, that's golden information there. That's golden nugget information. I'd be at home looking up on Craigslist for sales for stair steppers and then send them a note afterwards. Hey, I heard you at breakfast this morning. You were looking for a stair stepper. I just found this one on Craigslist. It's available right here where we live. That's reaching out and networking. What are you looking for your business to do in the next 6 months? Is there anything that I can do to help you with it? So just conversations that way and then taking some action.
I love that. Wow, that is a beautiful example. And it's so darn true that those little nuggets, it's not about quantity, it's about quality of the connections that you make at those networking events. And I know sometimes you can get caught up with someone for like what feels like forever and you're trying to get away gracefully. But yeah, I love that, really connecting with people. That's beautiful. Let me ask you, what makes you unique as you go about and meet people? And someone might point blank say, Shell, you know, why you? Because I know you're an excellent speaker. I see you're all over the stages across the United States and Canada. So what makes you unique, for example, as a speaker?
Oh gosh, you know, I'm pretty direct, and I think I just have a way to kind of deliver the information that makes everybody feel better about it. They receive it well. I use a lot of, I have a whole thing in my speaking where I use a lot of horsemanship analogies. And even if you know nothing about horses, for some reason, when I talk about these analogies, people get the visuals and they understand it. So I think I have just a really unique way to be able to connect with people, to even if they have nothing to do with anything that I like, I think I'm still relatable.
Okay. Have you ever, along the lines of collaborating with these people that you're networking with, have you ever seen your stagers kind of put on a seminar for home sellers? So the realtor and the stager kind of team up. And I think if you do that, that might even help make it be a little bit less scary.
Absolutely. Seller workshops are amazing. We recommend, even stagers can do them on their own, where they work with an agent and they can, instead of a consultation, where an agent may pay for a consult, they can say, well, I'm going to do a seller's workshop instead. And they might have 3 or 4 clients coming into a workshop, and they can learn about staging. And then those homeowners can actually bring pictures of their home in, and they will take a picture from every corner of the room, and then the stager can evaluate them and tell them what to do. So it's an amazing way to be able to partner up with somebody. They can even bring mortgage lenders into it. You know, anybody in the whole process can be part of that workshop, and it's a huge success. They're very, very good to do.
That's wonderful. I mean, talk about bringing value to
Yeah.
really wow your potential, you know, clients to you. That's awesome. All right, let's switch gears again to top 3 staging tips.
Oh boy. Well, clean. It's got to be clean. Everything has to be clean. If you look even online and you're looking through photos, sometimes when you look at a hall photo and you see the vent on the side of the wall and there's dirt in it, and you can see it even in the photo. So that's something, everything should be clean. Hire someone to clean it. You know, everybody's version of clean is a little bit different sometimes, so you can always hire somebody just to get the job done. I would also say it's got to be clutter-free. These are all your typical tips, but they really, it's true. You need to eliminate all the clutter. You need to want to try to make it look like a model home as much as you possibly can. And the other thing, one of the things that I find, because I've been looking at homes for the last year about where I want to move, finishes. Finishes are important. And I see a lot of homes where people do a lot of DIY work, and all the finishes are different. So even in like one bathroom, you could have brushed nickel, chrome, and a brass. So trying to get all your finishes, your light switches the same color and the same one, consistency throughout those types of features in your home, make them all very consistent.
Okay. And along those lines, I think we've all had clients that talk about clutter, that have so much furniture in a room, like a bedroom. They have their king size bed and they have 2 or 3 dressers. And, you know, I'd always say, look, we want to make this room appear big, bigger than it is. So you're going to have to please think about taking out 1 or maybe even 2 dressers. And so, you know, I'm sure that's something that you are a proponent of too. How do we maybe make that conversation not as awkward as we sometimes kind of build it up to be?
Absolutely. Super simple. You're moving anyways. You have to pack anyway. You're just packing up a little bit early. So even right now, yesterday, I packed a box of bookshelves, a box of books in a shelf. And I know I'm going to be leaving in the next 6, 7 months. I hope to be listing. So I'm just starting to pack up things that I haven't used in the last 6 months. I am packing that up now. So it also just makes your moving experience easier, because once you do sell, you're going to have less to do. So anytime that you can pack up those boxes, move them into a pod or a storage container, or even the garage, as long as it's well organized, it's a very, very big asset in selling your home.
That's awesome. Now, you've been mentioning that you're moving. And so, you know, you're probably shopping around for an agent. So this is great intel. So what are some things you're looking for in the agent you're going to hire in a couple of months?
Oh, well, that's an amazing question I've been waiting for all day. Here's some tips for agents out there. I'm looking for a horse property. So if you're selling a horse property and you've got it written in the description, great horse property, take a picture of the horse property, the barn, the round pen, the pastures, anything that's a selling point. That's what I want to see. So that's specific, very, very specific. But in general, I want to look for an agent because I have looked at agents and I'm looking at their listings online. And when I see something that's not staged and poor photography and maybe no virtual tour, I'm moving on to the next one. I want an agent who's going to bring their A game. They're selling my number one asset. I've worked since I was 16 years old to buy a home and to have the equity that I have in this home. I am not turning it over to someone who's an amateur, and I'm not going to turn it over to somebody who's not going to show me their best effort. Because I'm paying you a lot of money to get it done, and it's going to be done correctly. Period. The end. I deserve it, and you as the agent deserve to behave that well as well, because this is your business. You want to be able to show people that you're standing apart and you're going to do these things in order to get them top dollar for their property.
Okay, so let me ask you, if someone is a newer agent and they've only been doing this for 3 months, but they have a beautiful website and they wow you in the presentation, in their marketing, and they come at you with a confidence, would you dismiss them out of hand because they've only been doing it for a couple of months? And
No,
be honest.
not at all.
Okay.
Absolutely not. They come to me and they are excited and they are motivated and they are confident and they are going to do the professional photos and they're going to give it their best effort. Absolutely. I would not pass up that person. For me also, I like to help people. So just because you're new doesn't mean you can't bring your A game. Just because you're new doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. You absolutely should. You have, just as an agent and a property, you have one chance to make a fantastic first impression. And you can be all that even if you don't have a listing. I would still trust somebody with that listing as long as they were on the same boat and they knew about marketing the property.
Okay, and do you mean like they would have to wow you with, okay, Shell, this is what I'm going to do to market your property. I'm going to be all over the internet and I'm going to do this on social media and blah, blah, blah. I mean, is that what you're saying on marketing, or are you thinking about open houses? Kind of, what are you thinking in terms of what would wow you?
Stuff needs to be done. All the regular stuff that we've been doing for a million years needs to be done. The open houses, the ads, whatever. But the professional photography, getting it listed, you know, anything extra. But when I see agents that, again, they just don't even want to use the professional photography, it's a no for me. That's the internet. In the 80s, remember you used to look in the newspaper? And you go in that newspaper and you say, where's all the open houses on Sunday? And you drove the neighborhoods and you crossed them out in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Well, you don't do that anymore. The drive-by right now is Google. So you get on the internet, or it's not actually Google, but it's the internet. And you go on realtor.com or Zillow or whatever search site that you find, and you swipe and you click and you move it. That is your drive-by, and people are doing it like this, seconds to make that impression. And an empty house or a cluttered home with a photo with a camera phone, that's not going to catch somebody's eye.
It ain't going to cut it. That's for sure. That's for sure. Gosh, I just had a question and now that quick it went out of my mind. Darn it. Oh, come on.
I love it when that happens to me. About
menopausal brain. Okay, I got it. Okay. Question. I know I'm blessed to talk to real estate agents all day, every day from US and Canada and some other countries. It's really pretty amazing. But so many are doing real estate in a side hustle.
Yeah.
And I understand, you know, if you're, you know, in corporate America and you need, you know, to keep that job until you're on your feet. And there are some, though, who do real estate and then they do premier jewelry and they do candles and they do Pampered Chef and all these other things. So as a prospective client, what would be your reaction to someone if you would say, are you a full-time agent? And their answer will be no.
I would not hire them.
Okay.
Not happening. Here's why. For me, I'm a business coach. I'm also blessed. I speak with stagers. I educate real estate professionals for over a decade about how to be their best selves and how to bring it to the table. And part-time results get part-time effort, or part-time effort gets part-time results. And I need somebody all in. I want to know that somebody's able to make a living doing this, because that they have a proven track record just by the longevity of how long they've been into the industry. So yeah, I would want somebody who was a full-time agent.
Okay.
On the other side of that as well, when you talk about the side hustles, happens with stagers as well. You have a hobbyist stager, and then you have professional stagers, and they are built very differently. And as RESA, the trade association, we understand that a lot of people get into the industry and it might take them a little while to kind of get their legs and feel themselves, and you kind of start out. But there are people that just kind of do it as a hobby, and they don't care about professionalism and the quality of the furniture that they're using, and they might not just even know everything, and their website's not so great, and the pictures on their website are taken from a camera phone. That's a big red flag for an agent when you're interviewing a stager. These are the things that you want to look at. Their website, their inventory on their website. Is it the same furniture in every single photo example that they have? That might indicate that they don't have a vast majority of inventory. Are the photos on their website professional photographs? Because if they're not even willing to make an investment in their own company to brand themselves for the very first impression that they're claiming that they want to go out and make for you a great impression on selling their home. If they can't invest in a professional photographer on their own website, click on, move on to the next stager. So those are some things too, that with agents, there's definitely hobbyists, stagers, and there's professionals, and you always want to lean towards the professionals. Pricing is also the same thing. The big red flag. A lot of people want to get those 3 pricings on a job when you're hiring somebody, and they are just going and looking at price, and they say, well, this stager can do it for $3,000 less. If a stager can do something for $3,000 less than somebody else, I hate to use the word guarantee, but I'm pretty darn sure there's no way that they're profitable for themselves, or they're using the quality materials and bringing their A game. It's just really a night and day difference. Now, there's a caveat to that. If you look at the work on the 2 websites and you see that the work is absolutely comparable, then you might want to take a shot at that. But if you're really looking at something on price, I would never choose the low price leader as far as the stager is concerned, ever.
That's right. And we as agents know that too, because so many sellers say, you know, well, I want you to give me a discount. And you're like, well, wait a minute. No, I mean, something's got to give. My quality is at this level. And if you want a lower price, then something's going to give. So I totally appreciate that. Well, as we wrap up, I wanted to ask just 2 more questions. First, social media. How important is it to your business, and how important is it to you, again, as a prospective seller, as you're looking at these realtors in social media? Where are you going to be looking when an agent says, hey, interview me? Where are you going to be looking for them?
You know, I am big on Facebook, but what I do know about social media is that the generations are typically attracted to the different things. So you have a lot of the younger people that are Instagram, very much into the Instagram. I have an Instagram. I don't really use it. I'm more about the Facebook. So for me, it's really about your social media channels and how you're marketing and who you're marketing to. So if you are listing a home in a neighborhood where it's all young people that are coming in, I'd be marketing. All the social media is great, but I would really be marketing heavily on Instagram, because that's where those millennials are looking. That's where they're living. So you need to market where people are hanging out. So I definitely look at social media. I want to know that an agent's bringing everything they can in their arsenal in order to sell my #1 asset. That's a huge responsibility, and it's a lot of trust that I'm putting in somebody else to be able to get that equity out for me to get onto my next home.
That is so neat that you said the word trust, Shell, because National Association of Realtors said that on top of anything else, trust is the #1 factor on why someone chooses an agent over another. And it's not years of experience, and it's not all these other things that we tend to think it is. It is that all important trust. So thank you for that. All right, last question. Mindset. As an entrepreneur yourself, and as a woman entrepreneur, and let's fess up. Before we went on live, you and I were talking about, oh, wait a minute, what's my makeup look like there? And, you know, why do I look like that? I didn't look like that in the mirror 2 seconds ago. So as women, we're so hard on ourselves physically, but also, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. My list is as long as my arm. So to wrap it up, like mindset, how do you stay positive and moving forward even when you have those tough days?
Wow. You know, I'm going to you asked me a question earlier about speaking, and I kind of answered that I'm really relatable. So I'm going to lay it out here for everybody. I'm going to be super vulnerable. I'm not perfect every day. It's just not. There are times where I know what I have to say when I'm speaking or coaching to people. I know it's changing their lives. I get the emails, I get the phone calls. I understand it. But then I have my off days as well. And when something happens in my world, in my business world, and I get down, I do my best to contain it in a very short period of time. And that means if I literally need to sit down for an hour and just feel sorry for myself, or to bitch, gripe, moan, complain, cry, spit, kick, whatever it is that I need to do, I will literally say, okay, you've got 1 hour, Brodnax, make it happen. And what ends up happening is in about 5 or 6 minutes, I sit there and I'm like, well, this is just stupid. This is just silly. So I take the whole hour. So I know, because ultimately, did the hour really do me any good? Do you just kind of get it out? Sometimes you just need to get it out. 5 or 6 minutes sometimes will do it. But then you just have to kind of get right back into it. And another tip that I have for people when you get that way is the thoughts in your head, they're actually only contained in your head. And just because you're thinking them, the rest of the world has no clue that you just thought that, felt that way, anything. So literally, this is something where you literally have to say, okay, I'm only thinking this. I'm only feeling it. It'll go away in a little bit. Nobody else heard the thoughts in my head. And you just kind of have to regroup. But you literally say it out loud to yourself, or get out of my head, get out of my head, get out of my head. And then you feel so silly for sitting there in your office going, get out of my head, or driving down the highway, get out of my head. But it works. You just have to do something big to kind of, jar it out of you, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But I agree, women, we do it all the time. I do it to myself. Most days are great days. I stay positive most of the time, but sure, there's times something happens and you're just like, man, why is this happening? And then just try to learn from it and move past it as quickly as possible.
Right. Fail quickly, move forward. Okay. Right. This is absolutely my last question. I want you to have an opportunity to tell ladies where you are. What's coming up for you in 2019? I know you have a few conferences.
2019. We have an event called RESA Connect Atlanta, and this is going to be at America's Mart, February 28th and March 1st. It's going to be an amazing event for stagers. And so you can go to resaconnectatlanta.org for tickets for that. We are also going to be RESACon, which is our annual convention in July 25th, 26th, and 27th. That's in Las Vegas, and we will be there as well. And every month I do many webinars, so you can check out the RESA Real Estate Staging Association Facebook page to get the schedule for that and drop in on us there as well.
Awesome. And we'll see you hopefully in April at our She's Unstoppable live event.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, Shel, thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure interviewing you. And I personally can't wait to meet you in April. And thank you so much for your time today.
I am so excited. And thank you so much for having me. And we're really hoping to get a couple of our team members out there in April.
Awesome. Excellent. All right, ladies, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Take good care. Bye-bye.